Hey, hey, party people in the place to be. It's Blag. Jesus, I've returned with another episode of Songs and Lyrics, and I have a very special guest with me, a rock legend in my mind, the fresh prince of darkness, Mr. Mark Diamond. Mark, welcome to the show.
Hey, Blag. Thank you for having me.
You know, Mark, you have talked with me for decades about your favorite group, the Rolling Stones. And so I really wanted to do some Stones stuff with you. You and me kind of come from different schools of the Stones. I'm more a 60s Stones guy. You're more a 70s Stones guy. But we're going to go for one of the all-time classics that they've actually stopped performing lately. So this is Brown Sugar on Songs and Lyrics. Heard Brown Sugar. I want to get your initial take on this. What is it about this song that draws you in so much? This is from what, 1971, 72?
This was from Sticky Fingers, so it would have been about 71.
Okay.
Yeah, about 71 or so. And, you know, the interesting thing about the Stones for me as a kid, you don't know music. My parents weren't super hip. They didn't listen to cool stuff, so I just heard stuff on the radio. So, like my dad driving me to school and stuff like that, you hear songs on the radio. And when you mentioned being into like the more 60s Stones, it was a big eye-opener for me. I'd hear these songs that were great, Jumping Jack Flash. But I'd also hear Time Is On My Side, and at one point... I kind of finally put together, hey, that's all the same band. These guys must be good. Because the Satisfaction sounds nothing like Exxon Main Street.
Right.
And all this.
To me, there's a big change there.
Yeah, there's a Get Off My Cloud, and those things are great. But I remember hearing all these songs, and one day, it's always this band called the Rolling Stones. Whenever they play something good, they say that was the Stones. And they sound remarkably different, these songs. And I remember going to the record store, which was at the mall, and going to the first time I was like, I want to see what these Rolling Stones are about. And the album that I picked up was the one that was the Octagon, which was the...
Black, is that Black and Blue?
No. Through the Past.
Yeah.
Right, so, and if you remember that one, on the back...
Well, that's kind of a best of.
It was a best of, but that just happened to be the first record that was in the bin. I had never seen what the Stones looked like.
Right.
So I picked out that record, turned it over, and that's Keith, in all his glory, just complete vampire demon. Every fucking rock and roll guy ever till now is copying that look of Keith on the back of that record.
So first it was the music on the radio, but then it was really the visual of it.
Yeah, so then I saw that, I got that record, and that's an interesting record because it has all the 60s stuff and other stuff. And then, I was like, okay, this is kind of the band, these guys are great. And then, for me, the album Sticky Fingers is, I just can't imagine there ever somebody making a more glorious example of rock and roll. It's just the perfect record. But a song like Brown Sugar, the first time I heard it on the radio, I was very young. I'm just like, oh, that's funny. They're singing about sugar, brown sugar. To me, there's no...
Well, because that was the bubblegum era, right? So you have songs like Yummy, Yummy, Yummy,
Exactly.
I Got Love in My Tummy, different things like Brown Sugar.
Sugar, oh honey, honey, you are my candy girl, and you got me wanting you, honey, oh sugar, sugar, you are my candy girl, and you got me wanting you. I just can't believe the loveliness of loving you. I just can't believe it's true. I just can't believe the wonder of this feeling too.
It had a swagger and it rocked, you know what I mean? But to me, as a child, you don't care about lyrics and stuff like that. It was just funny. Brown sugar. Oh, I put brown sugar on my waffles or whatever it is. As I grew older, you started listening to it from a different perspective. Now you're coming into puberty and like, hey, man, they're singing about black chicks, so that's kind of hot, because I've seen a lot of really hot black chicks. I grew up watching Good Times, and I never understood when JJ made fun of Thelma.
Oh, Thelma was so hot, I know.
So hot. And I that part of the show...
Looking like JJ, making fun of Thelma.
Yeah,
I never got
how
that.
ugly she was, and I was like...
Good time. Anytime you meet a payment. Good time. Anytime you meet a friend. Good time. Anytime you're out from under. Not getting hassled, not getting hustled. Keeping your head above water. Making a way when you can. Temporary layoffs. Good times. Easy credit rip-offs.
I don't know why you make so much fun. She's really hot. So, the next level, the first was just the song rocked. It had a great beat and band's great and whatever. But, lyrically as a kid, I thought that was just, okay, Brown Sugar. I went no further. Then after that, I'm like, okay, they're singing about black girls. And you get a little bit older, it's like, they're singing about probably eating pussy. Why do you taste so good?
Right.
And then you get a little older, you start to understand, the way things went in the world. You're like, they're singing about slavery too. So you start like this song, Okay,
I mean, that's the deep part. Let's go into the lyrics here, because this song has become kind of problematic. I mean, the Stones won't even do this anymore.
They finally announced...
And you don't hear it on the radio anymore.
They don't play it on the radio anymore, and they finally announced, because of the lyrics, which they realized were racy and whatever, that they're not going to do it anymore. It's weird to think of the Stones being woke, I mean, they still play Under My Thumb, which is one of the most misogynist songs ever.
Right, yeah.
And it's great, but...
It's down to me. Oh, yeah. The way she talks when she's spoken to. Down to me. The change has come. She's under my thumb. Yeah, it feels alright. Under my thumb. Her eyes are just kept to herself. Under my thumb. Well, I can still look at someone else. It's down to me. Oh, that's what I say. The way she talks.
You can't, if you talk about any kind of race thing, you're a racist or whatever. But yeah, you got a song that starts, Gold Coast slave ship bound for cotton fields, sold in a market down in New Orleans. Scarred old slaver, know he's doing all right. Hear him whip the women just around me.
Yeah. I mean, that's some deep shit. But here's my question with this kind of stuff, because when you hear this, there's two ways to interpret it. And obviously they're going now with the more obvious way, where it's like, hey, we're in favor of this. We think this is good. I mean, to my mind, it's like when you write a song like this, Mick is kind of sticking it in America's face and saying, look, this is where you come from. This is what you used to do. And, we're not that far from this. Like, to me, that's the problem that I have. Like, everybody now, every old white guy, right, complains about woke. It's supposed to be so bad. I mean, my feeling is just, when it freaks me out is when it goes against what it's trying to do. Like, to me, I'm glad that there's a song that's sort of pointing up, hey, this is what went on, and you know, it seems like it's but to sweep it under the rug and say no, okay, you can't have this song. Then again, in another way, I mean, it's a rock and roll song. It brings you in. So is it celebrating that,
right,
or is it suggesting that that's?
And people never really talk about Stones lyrically that much. And you know, Jagger and Richards were great lyricists. I think you're completely right. You know, it's like, yeah, here's a rock and roll song. It's going to be about sex and drugs and rock and roll. But they're throwing that right in America's face. So this was a huge song in America. And it brings up the subject that people were slaves.
Yeah,
and these people weren't treated well. And then in the next verse, it sexualizes it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know, then so that now it's even a more kind of weird thing. You know,
right? Are they exploiting it, or are they
exactly.
talking about it?
And I think honestly, you know, it's something that they wrote at the time. They always kind of, you know, walked that line of whatever. Nowadays, you know, it'd be, you know, looked at as not appropriate. But as a young person, like I said, the first time I heard it, it was funny. And the next time I heard it, because I started to notice girls, I'm like, hey, that's about hot girls. And the next time I was like, they're talking about, why do you taste so good?
It could also be dope, right?
And
brown sugar.
As I got older, when I'm like a teenager and I'm reading all the books on the Stones, and you're learning a lot of different euphemisms for heroin.
Don't know just where I'm going. Try for the kingdom if I can, 'cause it makes me feel like I'm a man when I put a spike into my vein. And I tell you, things aren't quite the same when I'm rushing on my run, and I feel just like Jesus' son. And I guess that I just don't know, and I guess that I just don't know.
So it has that time, which of course the band have that element in it too. But it's the same thing. You know what song they don't play on the radio anymore? It's Lou Reed's Walk on the Wild Side. Because it says, and all the colored girls sing.
Oh, right.
When's the last time you heard that? It used to be on the radio all the time.
That's
it was
right.
a staple of FM radio.
Yeah.
They don't play that anymore. Because and all the colored girls sing do-do-do-do-do.
Right.
And just saying that
I didn't notice
is very problematic for people, you know, so...
Jankel quit the West Side Daisy, eh? Went cross town and joined YMCA. Soon bacon and pork he began to enjoy. Took off his yarmulke, it was a guy. I said, hey, uncle, take a walk on the kosher side. I said, hey, Nudnik, take a walk down Fairfax. And the members of it does go.
To me, lyrically, this song was great because, it has the slavery thing. It throws it in America's face. Then it sexualizes it. You know, like you pointed out, the point of view changes.
Yeah, well, that's what kind of fascinates me. I mean,
Right.
It starts out being about this, about slavery, and it's in that time frame. Then the next one, drums beating, cold English blood, lady of the house wondering when it's going to stop, houseboy knows he's doing all right. So again, it stays in that realm. But then... later on in the song, I bet your mama was a tent show queen and all her boyfriends were sweet 16. I'm no schoolboy, but I know what I like. You sure? So now he's talking about his experience.
And I almost see it as like in a chronological way. If you look at the history of America, if you want to get really deep, the first part's the beginning of slavery. They're bringing people over on boats. A little bit later, okay, well now maybe the slaves have been freed, but some of them get to live in the house. You're the houseboy. You know,
Right,
you're the one who gets to be in the big house and they'll go out picking the cotton. And a little bit later after that, now we're talking about someone saying, I bet your mama was a tent show queen.
Right.
So now those characters from the first verses are grown up now. Now he's looking at the daughter or the granddaughter.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I bet you're hot. I bet your mom was hot. I bet,
So is part of what brought you into the Stones the decadence of it? Because I think this...
honestly, for me, just the Stones, the songs were so good. They were so good. And like, all the songs were different. And I didn't... As a child, I mean, young. I remember, we'd have the 4th of July party and, you'd rent a jukebox and people would come over. There's always Stone songs on it, and there was just good songs. It wasn't until I got older when you start looking at this and go, okay, man, there's a lot of drug stuff with the Stones, obviously. Any good rock and roll has a lot of sexuality, and that started with Elvis, Little Richard. There's always been sex and drugs and stuff like that. But it just, to me, it was very natural because I just heard these songs, and every time I really liked the song, it turned out it was the same band.
Well, you're a guitar guy. I mean, this to me is very much that, to me there's 3 periods of the Stones, right? You got your 60s period.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, with Satisfaction, Get Off My Cloud. You talked about some of that. Then you got sort of your deep 70s, lots of guitar period, Exile on Main Street and that kind of stuff. This to me is that little middle period that I really like a lot. Well, and this just because of the piano and the kind of swagger of it always reminded me of Honky Tonk Women a little bit. Riff is different, but what brings you into that? I mean, you're a guitar guy.
That is the same period, and a big change happened to the Stones. The Stones are mostly in a standard guitar tuning, up to a point, and then Keith says he learned it from Ry Cooder, which is the open G tuning, which basically you just take your A string.
From Ry Cooder or from Graham Parsons?
No, he got it from Ry Cooder, and years later, Ry Cooder would bitch, "Oh, Keith Richards ripped me off." He's like, no, motherfucker, he never ripped anything off.
Right.
You showed him a cool tuning, just like the same way someone showed you that tuning.
Right.
He just happened to write a million great songs. You did it.
Right.
Ry Cooder's a very skilled guitarist, but he never wrote a fucking song that you can remember.
Right.
You got to bitch and moan about how you got ripped off, and like, you didn't invent the tuning, some blues guy did,
Ry Cooder did some cool stuff on that first Captain Beefheart record.
He's a great player.
Safe as
He's a
Milk,
great player,
which
but
is a very underrated
I couldn't
record.
name a song he wrote, you know what I mean?
Right.
I was born in the desert, came on up from New Orleans. Came upon a tornado, sunlight in the sky. I wheel around all day with the moon sticking in my eye. Hey, all you young girls, wherever you're at, I got a brand new Cadillac, got a Ferrari. Sure the baby, sure the baby, sorry. Got the time to teach you now, let you learn some
So Keith Richards, who's the ultimate in minimal guitar playing, and his whole thing is that I'm not going to move my hand around. When Brian Jones got all fucked up and Keith had to do everything, he plays all those leads. Keith can do that. He plays all the leads on, Sympathy for the Devil and all that stuff. But Keith is a rhythm guy. That's where his thing is. And the whole thing about that, when he changed to the G tuning, you just got these different voicings of chords that you can make with minimal hand movement. You're not moving all around. And it changed the entire sound of the band. At that point, a lot of those
Yeah,
songs...
I mean, I definitely demarcated difference. It's sort of like before Jumpin' Jack Flash, after Jumpin' Jack.
Right, as Tears Go By, all those songs, they're all in E, standard guitar tuning. After that, everything was pretty much in G, and they're playing off this G tuning. So musically, it did change. It also coincided with the heavy dope period for them, too. So you have that kind of thing. And then Exile really got into it, which was a great record.
See, I don't trip on Exile the way that guitar players seem to trip on Exile. To me, it's one record too long. I mean, you know me, I'm a pop guy. I could do without all that stuff.
I love Exile.
This, to me, is like a perfect jam.
That's why I pick, for me, the ultimate thing was Beggar's Banquet, Let It Bleed, Sticky Fingers, Exile. Those 4 in a row is just the most amazing... fucking streak of rock and roll. Exile, I agree. Okay, side 3, just want to see his face, stuff like that, whatever. That was part of that whole druggy thing. But this record, Sticky Fingers, it's just the perfect album.
What are some of the other tracks on here?
You got Brown Sugar, and then, you know, radio's so guilty of just playing certain songs by certain bands. The song that, my favorite song on the record is Sway, which is never on the radio, and that's the second song on there. It's just that demon life that's got me in it, Sway. That's the chorus. It's amazing. And it has that great third verse where he says, "One day I woke up to find, right in the bed next to mine, a girl who broke me up in the corner of a smile." That's amazing, you know?
One day I woke up to find, right in the bed next to mine, someone that broke me up with a corner of her smile. Yeah, it's just that evil life that got me this way. It's just that evil life that got me this way. It's just that evil life that got me this way.
If you hear me knocking, it has Dead Flowers, another one of the greatest songs ever written.
Right.
They do some blues. It has a Moonlight Mile. I mean, there's just so bitch.
For
I
me,
mean, it's just a hit after hit on
for
that
me,
record.
you know, it's like Mick Jagger is, on the one hand, one of the most overexposed people ever as a performer. And
Exactly.
he's synonymous with being a performer, and you never think of him not getting his due, because he always gets his due as like the coolest. You know, people continue to reference him. Even, you know, Maroon 5 is talking about moves like Jagger when he's 70 years old, right? And Kesha in TikTok is talking
Right.
about Mick Jagger. So
But got plenty of beer. Ain't got no money in my pocket, but I'm already here. And now the dudes are lining up, cause they hear we got swagger. But we kick 'em to the curb unless they look like Mick Jagger. I'm talking about everybody getting crunk, crunk. Boys try to touch my junk, junk. Gonna smack 'em if he getting too drunk, drunk. Nah, we go until they kick us out, out of the police shut us down, down. Police shut us down, down. Po shut us down. Don't stop, make it pop. DJ blow my speakers up tonight. I'ma fight till we see the sunlight. Tick tock on the clock, but the party don't stop. No.
he's always been revered as this performer. I think he's totally underrated as a lyricist.
I agree with you.
I will put him right up there with Dylan. I will put him right up there with John Lennon, Paul McCartney, any of the guys from the 60s.
know, I mean-
to me, he is a brilliant, sensitive lyricist.
His
kills it.
lyrics are great. Dead Flowers, the lyrics are amazing. You know, bitch. You know, you make me salivate like a Pavlov's dog. I mean, there's just things in there. They're all very clever. There's a lot of humor in their lyrics. You know what I mean?
Right.
A lot of sex stuff. There's lots of double entendres, and you know, it's just and he never gets talked about that. He
Never gets talked about as a lyricist. It's always, oh, look at the lip,
Right.
look at the pouting, look at the shaking
Wild,
his ass.
Wild Horses is on this record.
Wild horses couldn't drag me away. Wild horses couldn't drag me away. I watched you suffer a dull aching pain. Now you decided to show me the same. No sweeping exit. Off stage life.
I have the one with the zipper, right?
I have
This is the
yeah.
one with the
This is the one
with the zipper.
And what-
Which, you know, you can't put it with the rest of your records. I love that. I mean, I think it was an Andy Warhol thing, right?
Yes,
Like
yeah,
an
it was.
art concept piece.
Totally. Well, when you talk about lyrics too, you know, I always hated the whole, you know, Springsteen. I'm just like you. I'm a working guy. It's like Bruce, man, you're not moving your own amp. You're not doing that shit.
Right.
Springsteen's great at what he does, but, Bon Jovi with his videos looking tired on the road. Yeah, must be tired flying from show to show, motherfucker. Get in a van for 24 hours.
Right.
And he's done it. He's paid
We're
his
driving
dues.
around the Belgian countryside
I mean, he's paid his dues, but a song like Moonlight Mile, when you talk about Jagger's lyrics, and that, which is a really interesting song, because I'm the huge Keith guy. Moonlight Mile is the only song the Stones ever put out that has no Keith guitar in it. He thought they were done with the session. He took off, and all the guitar on that is Mick Jagger and Mick Taylor.
That's interesting. Taylor's like the unknown Stones guy, right? Did he do slide and stuff, or what was
he? When Brian Jones was gone, and was basically useless on Beggar's Banquet, so Keith played those leads. Brian Jones, notably on Beggar's Banquet, played some beautiful slide on No Expectations, but for the most part of that record, he's kind of gone. Let It Bleed is all Keith. They might have a couple other people playing on there, but. And then they got Mick Taylor, who was he came from that same thing. He played with John Mayall's Blues Breakers and stuff like that.
God. Every English guy talks about that band like it's supposed to be something. John Mayall's
right, and that's the thing. It's just, they're good players. There's no songs, So I never gave a shit about it, but he's one of those guys. Every single guy played in that band. But he's quite good on it, and that's where you get that idea of kind of like guitar weaving, him and Keith. Keith's style of playing is... In all bands, except for 2 bands in the world, it's all about filling up the space. You know what I mean? It's just, the guitar's going the whole time, the bass is going the whole time. That's what
our music, we just fill every square inch.
The Ramones, a lot of great bands.
Right.
Even the Beatles, there's not a lot of space. The Stones have a huge amount of space in their song. Yes, bam, 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 a huge opening. Start Me Up, da-na-na, completely open. The only other band that does that is AC/DC, who has huge amounts of space in their songs. Bands in the world. Every band in the world that has 2 guitar players, sometimes they have a guy who's a really good lead guy, but the rhythm guy he's not the rhythm guy because he's a great rhythm player. He's just not as good as the other guy. Slash was better than Izzy, so he's the lead guitar player.
I see.
In my other band, Motochrist, I do the leads because Ricky doesn't play him as well.
Right.
It's not like he's some skilled guy. They're all good guitar players, except for 2 bands in the world, which is the Stones and AC/DC. Malcolm Young was the rhythm player because he was the best rhythm player in the world. Keith Richards is the rhythm player because he's the best rhythm player in the world. And in both those bands, they do not follow the drummer. The AC/DC follows Malcolm. And in the Stones, they all follow Keith. And they're the only 2 bands where the drummer isn't putting a fill through everything. AC/DC and the Stones. And it's the only 2 bands that have huge spaces in their music. Bum, ba-na-na, ba-na-na. Huge spaces. And I would go as far to say that if you're at like a disco, probably the only 2 bands that if you put on a rock song, people don't leave and go get something to drink. You can dance to AC/DC, you can dance to the Stones. And I just find it interesting that there's the only 2 bands in the world where you follow the rhythm guy. And it's the only 2 bands I can think of where the rhythm guy is the rhythm guy because he's the best rhythm guy.
But with Brown Sugar,
which is fine.
It wasn't Keith, right?
Correct. He says that because it's such a signature Keith lick. He says Mick came up with that. I mean, Keith plays it on the record,
right?
But he says the original riff was all Mick. He gives him complete.
So Mick comes up with that riff and the lyrical slant around.
Well, they both did lyrics, and so it's hard to in certain songs you can tell who probably wrote a little bit more of whatever. This to me screams out Mick.
So now that I didn't know.
So songs like the Beatles was like Lennon McCartney, but you can tell which ones were more of a McCartney song, which ones were more of a Lennon song,
right?
And I think with Stonesy songs, but also you get a lot of things
in the second half of the Beatles. In the first half, there's a lot more kind of interplay. Right. But you're saying with the Stones, Keith writes a lot of lyrics. I didn't know that.
The story with them is that their managers are like, you can't just keep doing blues covers. You guys are getting big.
Right, I knew about that. They locked him in a room.
If they ever want to make money, you need to write songs. So they went in there until they learned how to write a song.
And they came out with "Tell Me You're Coming Back to Me," which I always liked that one a lot.
All those 60s
early.
songs.
See, that's the thing. I'm a '60s.
But lyrically, Mick would write about Keith a lot, you know. Joe's got a cough, it sounds kind of rough, you know, oh, a little codeine will fix it, you know. I mean, he's right about Keith's problems lots of times and stuff like that, in songs like that. Dead Flowers, you know, I'll be in my basement room with a needle and a spoon and another girl to take my pain away. You know what I mean?
Nice.
I mean, they talk about each other, you know what I mean? And when you're talking about lyrically on this record, too, we're talking about the whole working man thing. Moonlight Mile has a great lyric. Stones were huge stars at that time, but he's just talking about traveling and going home. And he acknowledges, I'm a big, huge rock star, you know? I travel on a big, fancy bus, and I don't have to drive, I can do whatever I want. But he has a great lyric. He's like, I make a rag pile out of my shiny clothes. Lay my bones. I always thought that was great. It's like, I got my shiny clothes, I'm a rock star, but you know what, fuck, I'm tired, I'm gonna let you know, with a head full of snow. So I mean, yeah, I've been doing coke for weeks and I'm a rock star, but I just thought the simplicity that I make a rag pile of my shiny clothes, gonna lay them up with a head full of snow. I mean, lyrically is really good.
Some Girls to me is genius, specifically for that thing that you're talking about, where he doesn't shy away from talking about that he's a rock star.
Yeah.
And, you know, specifically talking about Some Girls. It's like,
but he doesn't.
I love that because he's not pretending everybody has this experience.
Right.
I mean, nobody has this experience.
Right. You know, and it's not.
He's fucking every different kind of girl. She's taking half his money and blah.
Right. Yeah. And it's not in that stupid 70s corporate rock way. Like, we get off the limo, we go to the show, we're gonna rock some asses tonight.
Right, yeah.
20,000 people streaming for my balls, you know what I mean? It's not right.
On the road for 40 days. Last night in rock put me in a haze. Sweet, sweet Connie doing her act. She had the whole show, and that's a natural fact. Up all night with Frank King. I got to tell you, poker's his thing. Booze and ladies keep me right. As long as we can make it to the show tonight, we're an American band. We're an American band. We come into your town, we'll help you party it down. We're an American band.
And Some Girls, you know, to me, that's an amazing album because it came after kind of, hey, I'm the guy, I like stuff on, you know, the Black and Blue, It's Only Rock and Roll, Goat's Head Soup, I think is fantastic and underrated. But after some of those records, Some Girls, you know, the Stones are being looked at kind of like, you're done. And now there's disco and there's punk. And then they put out Some Girls, and they answer both of those threats by beating them at their own game.
Yeah, I would say
they
so.
put out-
Shattered is kind of a punk song, and
Shattered's
Miss You is kind of a
fucking punk
disco song.
Talking
Yeah.
about the streets of fucking, you know, New York and all that shit.
Right.
It's a weird song.
People dressed in plastic
It's,
bags.
you know, and it basically, you know, and then singing songs like Respectable, which is a pretty filthy song and stuff like
Right.
that. So they kind of answered punk. You know what I mean? So
We
it's
should
like-
play Respectable by the Isley Brothers, because I think most people don't know that that song is
Right.
kind of loosely based
And-
on
The
there.
kind of girl for me. Ah, my baby's so respectable. My baby's so respectable. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Lover, can't you see? I love her, can't you see? I love her, can't you see? She's the kind of girl for me. Ah, she's so respectable.
But then also, fucking disco's huge. Stones put out Miss You. It just becomes a huge dance hit.
Right.
So to me, it was very interesting that with that, you know, the big threats musically, besides, people are saying, oh, you're old and big washed up, it's like, they said, well, here, dance to this, fucker.
Every time I move, I lose. When I look, I'm in. And every time I turn around, I'm back in love. I get mixed emotions. It's the way my feelings flow. Excuse me, I'm only human. Sometimes I just don't know. Every time I move, I lose. When I look, I'm in. And every time I turn around, I'm back in love again. Back in love. When you put your arms around me, I feel so satisfied. I want to love you forever.
You want something that's kind of hard from the streets like New York? Check this out.
Right.
And that whole record's a fucking triumph.
Yeah, I love that one. Even not being a huge 70s Stones guy, I think, for my money, it's the most complete, perfect Stones record is Some Girls. From the art, which is brilliant, to, which got censored and was using people.
I will always go for Let It Bleed as being my favorite. Just like I said, I just can't imagine a better batch of rock and roll songs.
The only thing that bums me out there with Let It Bleed, right? Isn't that the one where they do country honk instead of honky tonk?
I misspoke. I meant Sticky Fingers. Sticky Fingers is my favorite.
Right.
Let It Bleed is great too. But Sticky Fingers is my favorite record. And then the interesting one is, was Tattoo You, which is the perfect party record because the first side is all rock songs, the second side is all quiet songs.
Yeah, that seems like sort of a thrown together thing. That's the last Stones record that moves me. It's got so many good songs. Aside from Start Me Up, it's got Hang Fire, which I always thought was very underrated. Little TNA, which arguably is Keith's best song. And then, yeah, you're right. You flip it over and you get all the, like, Waiting on a Friend. It gets a very downbeat
Yeah, and then
vibe.
the other ones, too, the whole second side, it's kind of like a party record. Hey, man, there's the first half, and then now it's time to slow dance.
Right.
And then that's time you get to grab the girl. That's a great record, And it is... that's
Would you say that's the last great Stones record? Because that to me feels like, okay, these are the best songs we have sitting around over the last few years in the 70s. Let's put this together. I think that one, Tattoo, maybe 80, 81.
It came out 80 or 81, and it's weird.
Because after that, it gets weird.
I will argue for Undercover as being a strong record, but it's not as good as Tattoo.
That had kind of a muted funk feel, right?
It had some good funk stuff, and it was kind of a dirty record with a lot of blood on it.
It was that one.
People didn't like it, you know what I mean? And I agree. I think Tattoo is the last great. There's been Stone songs here or there, but Tattoo is the last great record. But I would argue that half of Undercover is very strong.
So, I guess what we're saying here is that Brown Sugar, it deserves to be resurrected if it hasn't been. We played it. We're not afraid.
It's weird to think that this is a staple of, rock and roll radio, and they're not playing it.
Well, and I just think that to me is the most fascinating question of our time. It isn't this, red state, blue state, are you woke, are you not woke question. My bigger question is, no, it is just discussing something taboo. Right. Is just putting it out there wrong. I mean, it seems to me that when you don't put this stuff out there is when you're sweeping it under the rug,
Exactly.
and that's more wrong than just getting it out there. But then other people, I guess, would say, well, no, because you've appropriated this history, but this history is all of our history.
I wonder who wrote the book of love? Tell me, who wrote the book of love? I've got to know the answer. Was it someone from above? I wonder who wrote the book of love? I love you, darling, baby, you know I do. But I've got to see this book of love, find out why it's true. I wonder who wrote the book of love? Chapter 1 says the lover, you love with all your heart.
It'd be interesting to go back and look. I'm trying to think of any other ones. Like I said, I'm not a big Lou Reed fan, but they don't play that song on the radio anymore, and I know it's because of that line.
Well, maybe we should be playing a little bit of Lou Reed on the way out of this episode.
No, let's just play more Stones.
Of song.
Lou Reed is a pompous asshole who wrote a couple of good songs, but
It's a whole other show.
What do you think?
Coming from a West Coast guy, Mark Diamond,
the
rock
Stones,
legend.
this record, Sticky Fingers, to me is just. I honestly listen to Sticky Fingers at least twice a week.
And you should too, on songs and lyrics.